show. We are ready to talk with our next live guest this morning. We've got John Kingston, our editor-at-large, joining us. John, thank you for being here. We're talking about a pretty decent win for a union when it comes to a new trucking company looking to get some union representation. Talk to us about what's going on with Werner and the Teamsters.
Yeah, very small, but very significant and very different. So Werner bought 80% of ECM a couple of years ago. ECM is a truckload company, but they do just kind of one way. So, I mean, they're sort of in between truckload and kind of a short-term delivery model. But anyway, so workers in New Jersey at 3 ECM facilities that only total 26 workers voted in the United Food and Commercial Workers Union earlier this week. The vote was like 17-8 and one abstention. Somebody didn't vote. So this is the first unionization at Werner at all. Now remember, it's very difficult to unionize truckload drivers because, first of all, the turnover is so high. They don't gather in one facility. You know, they're always on the road. Whereas an LTL or something like this, you know, there are depots and there are places that they gather. Even this, you know, we had 26 workers spread out over 3 sites in New Jersey. But this was considered significant enough by Werner that they were very much involved in the opposition, opposing the unionization. And Derek Leathers, the CEO of Werner, did go to New Jersey and meet with a grand total of 26 workers. I don't think he met with all of them, but met with the worker groups to argue why they shouldn't unionize. So, you know, this is the whole idea of once you get that camel's nose under the tent, I can't imagine unionization spreading to the vast majority of Werner, which is truckload. There's no other truckload carriers that have that kind of unionization. But ECM is a significant operation. It's got 500 trucks or 450 trucks. And, you know, if that were to spread into other parts of ECM, then you've got a mostly non-union workforce, but this kind of little corner of the business, which Werner sees as certainly a growth engine that would be unionized. But remember, it's only one union, but you got to start somewhere.
And, you know, 400 to 500 trucks is a big deal. When we're looking at how it happened, is this because it was concentrated out of one location? Is it a New Jersey thing? Or because normally if you're thinking OTR, it's hard to get them all together to even agree on something because they're driving on the road.
Right, now let's note that this is just 26 workers, so that's not covering 400 plus trucks there, okay? So yeah, they just seem to be unhappy with a lot of things. When they met with Werner officials, Werner said, hey, I didn't know you were that unhappy. Give us a second chance. That's what Mike Thompson, the union rep, told me. He said that the Werner message was, give us another chance to do it right. But the employees went another way. So this is, again, just one unit. I got differing numbers on how many depots there are in the ECM system. There are 3 here that are covered by these workers. So, you got a long way to go. But as I said, you have to start somewhere.
So this is interesting for the Teamsters because, as we know, they've kind of had this fraught history going on this past year, right? We saw them have this big win with UPS, but then we also saw them have a little bit of a loss with an XPO group out of Florida saying, you know what, we don't want union representation from the Teamsters anymore. When they're looking at now these successes versus some big successes versus maybe some little losses, is this kind of how they're expecting to see things go now going forward? Is that they they kind of do one step forward, maybe a half step back?
Yeah, the one down in Florida was just enormously important, and I think really terrible news for the Teamsters. So that site in Hialeah, right outside of Miami, was the first XPO facility where the Teamsters signed a contract, where XPO signed a contract with the Teamsters. There had been other places that had voted in representation. Just because you vote in a representation, you still got to negotiate a contract. And, companies can stall, okay? So in that case, though, XPO ultimately did sign a contract with the workers at Hialeah. And less than 2 years later, the union voted to the workers voted to decertify the union. So that was a major blow to the Teamsters. There's no indication here that the Teamsters were involved in this effort. It's not complete. The Mike Thompson, who I spoke to from UFCW, said there were just some workers who came to them. Maybe they had friends who were members of other locals at the UFCW and said, hey, let's try to get them to represent it. One thing that's interesting, when you go on that union's website, there's a drop down of the various sectors that it has workers in. Transportation isn't even on this. They have some transportation unions. primarily like in some like public mass transit. But this is sort of unique for them as well. So no sign that the Teamsters were here on this one. I'm sure that victory has their attention, though. Now the next step is, can the union successfully negotiate a contract with Werner, which of course has no track record of negotiating union contracts because it's completely union free. So this is going to be one to watch as well.
I think you bring up a great point. The UPS labor contracts, the 40% raise had influenced things like the UAW. They want their 40%. So if Werner's the first one to make a contract in this space, does that mean it may be a blueprint for others if it potentially we see more growth or interest?
Well, I'm not sure who the others are. I mean, this is kind of a unique business. They consider it a truckload business, but the drivers are home like almost every night. So is that like I said, it sounds like me like ECM is a hybrid between a truckload business and a delivery business. They're obviously doing more than box trucks. But, if you look at the pictures that Jim Allen got of ECM over the last couple of years, they're all, 53-foot trailers. So I'm not exactly sure who would copy them. I think the copycat you got to watch out for now would be other areas in the ECM network following the lead of what happened in New Jersey. To me, that's the big copycat possibility that is most interesting.
It's interesting. I think that 2023 has been I guess the end of 2022 into 2023 has been a really big year for labor, and it's really emboldened some of these movements to gain a little bit more speed. And I definitely think shows kind of where the headspace of the American worker is at. John, thank you for joining us this morning. Great to have you as always. We'll catch you tomorrow for Drilling Deep.
That's right. Thank you.